At the time of recording this, I'm 29 years old, but if I could go back to speak to my 20-year-old version of myself, this is exactly what I would tell her so she could get a stronger physique faster. I used to pride myself on being the hardest worker in the room. I remember doing this one specific program called Shortcut to Shred. It had me training super heavy with something like a squat or a deadlift, and then in my rest times, because resting is for the weak, I was doing cardio, which meant jogging on the spot or skipping. Although I couldn't skip, so I literally, I just remembering PTSD, I used to jump on the spot pretending to fucking skip, because the theory behind the program was that if you were lifting weights, you were building muscle, and if you were doing cardio, you were burning fat. Smash those two things together and you're happy days. Except it wasn't happy days. I almost shit myself aggressively. And to rub it all in, I actually stuck the program out for the full 6 weeks and looked exactly the same come the end of it. If anything, I was a little bit weaker because everything hurt, which means, well, bugger shit when it comes to your muscle gain or body fat progress. Sweating is literally just your body's way of cooling down, and feeling so sore for 2-3 days after your workout that going to the toilet is borderline traumatic. That is mostly driven because your body's just done something new and it's communicating to you, what the bloody fuck was that? Often what you see with DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness, is that the first couple of weeks of doing a new program, your body is on fire. But after a couple of weeks of committing to the same routine, your body builds resistance to those movements, which isn't a bad thing, it's a good thing. And that soreness drastically reduces, which means that you can probably train harder in your sessions because you're not sore all the bloody time. Now, although following Shortcut to Shred was, well, really silly and very painful, there was something good about that program, and it's something that I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, stick at that, you little scallywag, and that is following a program. It took me about 6 months of getting into the gym to think that I was better than any program anyone could give me. I know my body, I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna go in and wing it to fuck. And then sit there and blame my genetics for the next 12 months when I didn't see any changes. Following a training program not only helps your wobbly knees when you're first getting into the gym, so you know exactly what it is that you need to do as you go in for the first few times, but most good programs lay out a structure that enables you to do one of the most important things for muscle growth, and that is executing progressive overload. AKA seeing that you're getting stronger over time. Because if you are getting stronger by adding reps with the same weight or adding weight, or your form is improving over time, it's really hard to do those things and not build muscle. So you want to make sure you're doing those things. And having a program that helps you do that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. And something that I really wish my 20-year-old self had was the bits app. So I've literally written all the programs I've ever needed from when I first stepped into the gym to my more advanced training status now, so that you guys don't have to worry about that. It's literally less than $10 a month, and I'll drop the link somewhere around for you to join. But then if you do follow a program, don't be a silly goose about it. Make sure you're logging what you're doing, because if you're not logging, you are guessing. Again, smug little Rachel that didn't want to follow a program would waltz into the gym and be like, oh, I fancy a little bit of this. I fancy a little bit of that. Oh, that weight. Oh, I think that's all right. Yeah. Smash it out, bruv. And again, would wonder why I would not see any progress or feel a bit bored every few weeks with weight training. I didn't have a clue as to whether I was progressing or not. And well, I wasn't, to be honest. Whereas if you start logging your training, all of it, how much weight you've done, how many reps you've done, how hard it felt out of 10, a very underrated thing that I would be tracking, you can see how you're progressing week on week. It might not be every week that you're able to go up in reps or go up in weight. If you know exactly what you lifted last week, how heavy you found it, I sure as shit imagine you're gonna be more likely to waste less time in the next week, because you don't have to faff around and find out what weight you need to use. You can go in, get started with the weights that you were doing last week, and then look to push on last week's performance, maybe grinding out an additional rep or having the confidence to go up into the next weight. It literally takes 2 seconds to log your workouts, and you get to track them via animals if you are doing it in the Bits app, which will make your workouts just a couple percentage more efficient. And then you compound that over weeks and months of the training that you're doing. Now you're shagging is something that's worth doing. As I've already mentioned, the first few times you go to the gym, it might feel freaking sore. And you're probably going to go into the gym and think, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone else knows what they're doing. They're judging me. But it's fine. Literally everyone has started from zero, and everyone has been in the same shoes that you are. Maybe not the exact same shoes, that would be a bit weird. But they know the gig. They know it's fucking hard. So stop worrying about them, worry about you, and know that you're not weak if it's more sore or you feel uncomfortable or you get all sweaty and ugh in the first workouts. You're just in the process of learning. learning. Embrace it, embrace the suck, and keep showing up. This is something that I overlooked for years. And it's now something when someone comes to me and says, Rachel, I don't know where to start with my fitness journey, is one of the first things that I tell them to do. And that is going for a walk. Walking is one of the most accessible ways to move out there. Even if you're scared shitless of getting a gym membership because you don't feel like you can belong there just yet, or you don't want to invest in some weights at home just yet, you can still go for a bloody walk. It's great to build your initial fitness levels, especially if you've been inactive for a long period of time. If your goal is fat loss, it's fucking fantastic for that. And it's bloody brilliant at just getting yourself doing something. So often people put off starting their fitness because it just feels freaking overwhelming, and I get it, it is quite overwhelming. But if you can do something like starting your day with a 20-minute walk and that becomes ingrained in your routine, there's this wonderful concept called an object in motion stays in motion. And the more you do, the more you want to do. So if you start doing those steps, start setting up your day with intention, I wouldn't be surprised if your eating habits or your desire to train increases off the back of it. Focus on your form first before you start smashing your tits with heavier weights. Honestly, when I started, I had very good squat depth. About 6 weeks in, I had a lot of weight on the squat bar, but not very good squat depth. Literally, my nan could rival me very comfortably. But if you find that your range of motion is decreasing when you are adding weight on the bar, you're using too much weight. Sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it's true. Your muscle does not know how much weight is on the bar. No. Your muscle only knows the tension you put it under. And muscles tend to grow better when they are worked in their full range of motion. For example, in a squat, if you're only going a Nat's cock in depth, you're not putting much stretch or tension on those muscles at all. Whereas if you're sinking that nice and deep, you're going to be putting your glutes and your quads in a bit of a juicier stretch position and making them do more work. So you're making them work harder for less weight. And with less weight, making them work harder, you're probably not going to do anything silly with your load management and actually reduce your risk of injury. So when you're progressing weight, make sure you're checking in with your form and don't be an egotistical little bastard. Yeah. This one's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I legit thought nutrition was irrelevant so long as you were training. There's a very old saying, abs are made in the kitchen. I would say that statement is about 90% true. Not 100%, because yes, you do need muscle mass underneath your fat mass for you to have that muscle definition. If you're dieting down and getting lean and you don't have any muscle underneath, you're gonna keep on hunting and looking and being a bit sad about it. So you do want to build muscle in the areas you want to see that definition, but to expect your abs to pop through, or your quads to pop through, or your back to pop through without having any consideration around your nutrition, possible in some genetically and lifestyle gifted gurus, but unlikely for the vast fucking majority. And when I started honing in my nutrition, that's where my results got to, I kind of feel like I go to the gym, to holy shit, I'm starting to lift little baby cows and occasionally see a muscle when I look in the mirror and flex hard enough. Now, in my infancy of figuring out what the hell nutrition was or did or all of that stuff, I think it was literally the last thing that I came to was the thing that made the biggest difference. One of the first things that I was told, and I took it at face value, was that calories were an old school science. It's clean eating that matters. I ate clean for a while, saw fuck all results. So then I had calories are an old school science. Carb cycling, that's the thing you need. So I carb cycled for 2 weeks and saw bugger all results. And then the next one, Slimming World, count points. Oh, this feels a bit tiring. Are you sure? And that's what eventually led me to the concept that, yes, it is calories that are king when it comes to a lot of body composition goals. If you are wanting to drop body fat, you literally cannot ignore thermodynamics. You need to be in a calorie deficit in order to drop body fat. There's multiple ways you can go about it, but you need to be in the deficit. And if you are wanting to build muscle or improve your performance, then it's a jolly fucking good idea to be at least at maintenance, if not a slight surplus, especially if you're starting from a very lean position, which actually I kind of was. When I first started, I was at that little skinny fat stage and I was wasting loads of time trying to lose body fat when really I needed to commit to building muscle. And it was only when I committed to building muscle and then went back and dropped the body fat did I find an ab. Was it worth it? I don't know. Don't think so. More of that in a second. But as someone that naturally falls at a slightly lower body fat and has quite a hard time of building muscle, I need to spend quite a lot more time out of a deficit than in a deficit. No matter what your goal is, having an awareness at least of your calories and what that means to you is something that is well worth the wank. Now, it doesn't stop there at calories. I would love it if it did. As much as there was this one geezer that ate nothing but Twinkies and protein shakes and lost a lot of body fat, there is probably more to just calories that we want to consider when it comes to your nutrition. Protein is key for the growth and repair of your muscle tissue, and if your goal is fat loss, it does make your diet more satiating, therefore easier to stick to. So aiming between 1.6 to 2 grams per kilo is a fair reference point for most people. I say most people, but if you're looking to drop, say, more than 10 kilograms of body fat, you might want to use your target weight as a reference point for that number. That's because that formula is based closer to lean body mass rather than total body mass, so this prevents you from accidentally eating a whole fucking farm. And then once you got your protein sorted, you're probably going to want to eat some fruits and vegetables. Your mum wasn't lying all the bloody time. They won't make you that big and strong. They will keep you healthy and they will keep your bowels happy. So aiming for 1 to 2 plants per meal is what I like to do, or trying to shoot for around 15 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories you can consume is also a nice little ballpark. And then looking at the rest of your diet composition, don't listen to the lads with a podcast and cut out all of your carbs or cut out all of your fat depending on what they're thinking about that day. Both macronutrient groups are very important. Carbohydrates are your primary source of energy and where you're going to find your fiber. And then dietary fats are essential for your hormonal health, and cutting these out for an extended period of time is probably not in your best interest. And where you can, try to get your fat sources from unsaturated fats such as salmon, nuts, avocado to keep your heart happy and healthy. But again, if all of that is feeling super overwhelming for you, most important calories, next important protein, next important fiber, carbs and fat. And then what's really important is going into my next mistake, and that is not going all or nothing with these things around your nutrition, because perfect nutrition does not exist. I tried to be perfect, and fuck, on paper, I was. For a good year, I tracked every calorie, every macro, and I dieted down to be Shreddy Krueger levels. Never missing a workout, never missing a step. And pinnacle of grindy rage, took herself to a pizza party armed with a Tupperware box of chicken, overcooked, butternut squash, undercooked, and some green beans. Yummy. It was as shit as you can imagine it to be. And in that period of my life, although on paper I was disciplined and nailing my nutrition and training, I was pretty miserable. And this is what I mean by being perfect with nutrition to be impossible. Because if you focus all your energy on optimizing the shit out of that, it's more than likely other areas of your health are impacted. Mental health, social health, even financial health if you're buying, I don't know, grass-fed salmon for every meal. When I first got into fitness, I went tunnel vision to shit on this. I didn't take the holistic approach and I suffered for it. And this is why I really love the 80-20 ballpark, where you aim to get 80% of your calories from those single ingredient sources like your lean proteins, your fruits, your veggies, all that typical good stuff. And then leave 20% of your calories for some of the fun stuff. Maybe if you're getting towards an end of a deficit and you're having to push a little bit harder on your calories, maybe making that 90-10, so you're minimizing hunger as much as possible. But setting up those arbitrary food rules of I must eat 100% clean and never go over my calories or I'm a fucking shitbag is a recipe for disaster. Don't fall for it. Aim for consistency over perfection and thank me later. Now, although I've mentioned the importance of understanding your calories and your dietary composition, and I think one way that you can get a great understanding of those things is to track your calories and your food, I don't think tracking calories should be forever. When I first started, I tracked calories religiously for around 2 years. I got to the point of being borderline obsessed. Okay, over the border, far over the border, balls deep over the border. Obsessed. I didn't need to do it as long as I did, but there was value that can be taken still from that period of my life. With tracking your calorie intake, you can gain a great understanding of the nutrition you're consuming. It can bring in a layer of accountability, especially if you're on a fat loss phase, to know where your numbers are at and tick the boxes you need to see progress week on week. And hell, even when you haven't got a fat loss goal, giving yourself the tools, the education and the accountability to eat enough food and not chronically undereat can also be really freaking helpful. Very underrated benefit of tracking, I think. But just because these tools are incredible, it doesn't mean it needs to be forever. And the way that I like to use tracking now with myself and my clients is to use it as a tool rather than a rule. So maybe if someone is just getting set up and starting to understand what their diet looks like and how they need to get it to where they want to go, tracking might be useful then. Maybe for a phase where you want to dial things in a bit. For example, right now I'm in a fat loss phase and I want to have a little bit more accountability and just know where my numbers are at. So I've cycled the tool back into my life. But I think it's vital to discover how to exist without a food tracker and being able to be a bit more intuitive around your portion sizes, your hunger cues, and those wonderful things that are happening outside of MyFitnessPal, so that you have a more pleasant time being consistent with your nutrition over the years to come. Supplements are drastically overrated. Remember that little pyramid I was stacking up there? Supplements are up there or over there somewhere. Yes, they can help when you have all those other ducks in a row, but most people don't have those ducks in a row. And I know that because I know 20-year-old Rachel went into Holland and Barrett asking, what are the best supplements for fat loss? What are the best supplements for muscle gain? Before I even understood what a calorie was. But just real quick, if you are at a stage where you're like, yeah, I can start to bring some supplements into my routine, or you promise me that you don't hyper-focus on the supplements and ignore the other shit as you bring them in, these are the supplements that are worth taking. We have creatine monohydrate. Any brand will do, none of the wanky shit that's outside of it. The cheap stuff, it's got hundreds of studies supporting that it probably helps with performance in the gym, and it's got some new studies coming out that is quite promising around some cognitive function shit. 5 grams a day, every single day, that's all you need to know. If you are struggling to hit your protein goals, a protein powder is actually pretty freaking decent, so long as you actually enjoy them and they don't make you shit yourself. The whey blends are literally just flavoured powdered milk, and you can also get some plant-based options as well. It's cheap, easy, convenient, what's not to love? Then maybe if you want to touch more of the health side of things, if you live somewhere cold most of the year, which doesn't get much sunlight, you're probably a bit vitamin D deficient, so dabbling in some of that might not be a bad idea. And if you don't eat any fucking fish, some fish oils is probably not a bad idea as well. I will do a more in-depth video around supplements, but those are the ones to get you started. Told you, just don't focus on them too much. And now the reason I emphasize the supplements so much of not getting hyper-focused on that one thing is that I know what you like to do because I like to do it too. You tell yourself you're gonna do something and you're gonna go all in. You set up all the stuff that you're gonna do. I'm gonna hit all my steps, I'm gonna hit all my training, I'm gonna hit all my calories, I'm gonna hit all my supplements, and then one of those dominoes falls and the rest fuck off with it. And this is what holds you back for years. Years! And it might not show up in that obvious way, it's gonna be something a bit more subtle. For example, you might be tracking your calories because you're going through fat loss. You get to the weekend and you can't track them anymore, so you go, well, progress ruined. Hand me the entire cake and I'm going to wash it down with that bottle of Prosecco. I'll worry about it on Monday. This is something called an all or nothing mindset, and it's fucked. And something that we want to move closer towards is something called imperfect action, where when you realize you can't do one thing or you fuck up on one thing, you don't let that bad 15 minutes or that bad decision turn into a heap of them. An analogy I love with this is that so many of us treat fitness like it's on a light switch. It's either on or it's off, when a better way to approach it is like it's on a dimmer switch. Sometimes you're feeling motivated and everything is hunky-dory and you can turn that fucker up. But when you can't, you don't turn it off, you just turn it down however much is needed, and then you can turn it back up again the next day. So pop your journey on a dimmer switch and stop bending yourself over. I can tell you countless days where I've gone into the gym and it feels like gravity has been turned up to 11. I hope you get the reference. If you don't, I'm afraid we can't be friends. You get into the gym, you feel weak as a kitten and you just don't really enjoy it at all, and you think, oh, that's it, my gym journey's over. But I'm gonna tell you now, I'm gonna tell you straight. These sessions are unavoidable because just like in life, in the gym, you can't have the good days without the bad. And you just gotta learn to live with the bad days sometimes. I'm sorry that this has got a little bit deep, but you have. Because even if you show up into the gym and you don't hit any PRs, you even see that your weights go down a little bit, or maybe you go in and you do the first exercise and go, that was awful, and you go home. That is still paying dividends into a better session later. How? Because either you've still greased the grooves to improve your technique, your coordination, maybe even trained hard enough to still see some muscle adaptations happen, but at the very least, you still showed up consistently, which again is just paying a little tap to keeping that object in motion. Remember, because the object in motion, say it with me, stays in motion. So embrace the shit days, do them anyway, and the good days will follow. Which is why it's so freaking important for you to enjoy the process and trust the process. If I was chatting to my 20-year-old self, so many of the stresses and worries that she had, I feel I could take off her plate because I know where I am now. She didn't know that, so she was anxious about it, annoyed about it, frustrated about it, all those feelings. But if she knew how the processes worked out, from her consistency in the gym, from her consistency to posting content online and building her business, doing all the things that I know my previous self would have been doing for her 20s, I think I would have been able to enjoy it a hell of a lot more. And I know I'm terribly bad at doing this, but I never celebrate my wins. I never have done. I've never celebrated PRs very much. I've never even celebrated business wins. And most of the time when I am successful in something, it's more of a relief rather than an accomplishment. And I wish I could have rewired that brain a little bit better. And it's something that I put a lot of effort into doing with my clients. And that is reinforcing the shit out of your wins, celebrating them as they come, and taking joy in the passage of time. That is the process. Taking joy in showing up on the shit days, realizing that you're getting more resilient, that you're getting stronger, taking joy in prioritizing yourself and building the life that you want. Like, so much of the joy is in the journey. And if you're always focusing on when you're going to be happy at the end of it, you're gonna miss the whole fucking thing. So please, whilst you're looking at the horizon and trying to get to where you wanna go, stop and enjoy the fucking view. And you know what the funny thing about all of that is? Speaking from the heart now, I think one of the best skills I've learnt has come from lifting. And this isn't a mistake, because I think this is something that I've always done very well. And I'd actually go back and thank my 20-year-old self for doing exactly what she did. And that was practicing the skill of delayed gratification. Because the wickedly harsh reality is, the shit you're doing today probably won't benefit you for 3 months, maybe 6 months, which is why it's really hard to motivate yourself sometimes. So give yourself some slack for that, but also don't let yourself off. Keep on showing up anyway. Through training in the gym, and especially training for muscle growth, which takes a very long time, I started to really appreciate prioritizing that long-term gratification over immediate pleasure. Showing up on the days that I wasn't feeling motivated, trusting the process, being consistent. And that's how I've managed to accomplish things like doing weighted pull-ups, hitting over 140 kg deadlift, being able to hike mountains on a whim because I have a body that's strong enough to do so, and developing the mindset that I then took into my business. It took 2 years of coaching people for free and putting out free online content before anyone paid me to coach them. It took 3.5 years of putting out content every single day before I had a video that went anywhere near viral. People see me now 10 years into lifting, 6 years into content creation, and go, yeah, that'd be nice. But the only reason I got there is because I worked when people weren't looking. Now, I know that makes me sound like an absolute dildo, but it's true. And unless you're prepared to do the work then, and take the joy in that, because there's a lot of fun to be had in it, adjust your expectations to the results that you're going to see at the end. Because doing hard stuff now for easier stuff later is part of the process. But back into the things I was shit at, don't ignore cardio. I honestly used to skip cardio all the time because I was worried it was going to kill my gains. When really, I just didn't enjoy cardio, and that sounded like a good excuse not to do it. Now, cardio can impact your muscle growth if you do it willy-nilly. But so long as you program it intelligently, you're gonna be freaking fine. Doing things like training cardio on a different day to your weight training, keeping the more intense stuff like HIIT workouts if you're gonna do them to 1 or 2 times a week, because, well, if you're training hard with weights, you're probably doing something quite similar there anyway. Not only will it not disrupt your gains, you'll probably be healthier as a result. So yeah, you wanna make sure you at least have a baseline level of cardio, which if you're doing quite a lot of steps a day and doing a couple of cardio sessions a week, probably means that your weight training sessions don't have to suffer because you struggle to go upstairs. Just like struggling to finish a set of squats because your lungs are falling out of your arsehole, you don't want anything else to be a limiting factor of a lift that isn't the muscles that you're trying to train. So like in a squat, you want it to be that your glutes and your quads are telling you to fuck off rather than your lungs. Now, I don't know if you've gathered this yet, but yes, egotistical Rach had another thing that she refused to do, and that was use lifting straps. I thought I could be a beast and just be like, yeah, lifting straps there for weeks. I want to have strong, beefy forearms. When in reality, if you are lifting Romanian deadlifts, rows, and quite a lot of other back exercises heavy enough, it's likely that your forearms or your grip is going to give out before those muscles do. That's not because you've necessarily got a weak grip, it's just because those other muscles are stronger and can shift more weight. So investing in lifting straps can really help those lifts come along. And if you want to make sure that you're improving your grip alongside that, I like to do things like dead hangs or some forearm exercises at the end of my workouts, just to keep my grip a little bit in check. The first type of training I did before even getting into the gym was a HIIT style workout, and it was following a nice little DVD in my uni bedroom. It entailed punching the air with some dumbbells. Now initially I saw a little bit of results, saw a few muscles poke through, and I felt a little bit fitter, but that plateaued pretty quickly and it got pretty boring. I now know it's because it didn't have any direction, didn't implement things like progressive overload or intelligent programming, but even when I went into some of that stuff, I had a hangover from that way of training. And a hangover I know you have as well. And that is refusing to do the bloody rest times that last more than 30 seconds. The amount of times people come into bits and go, oh, are you really wanting us to rest 2 to 3 minutes? Yes, I am. Research has consistently shown that longer rest times result in better muscle gains, and that's what you want if you want to look toned and get strong. And if you don't feel like you need that rest, blunt honest truth, you're not training hard enough. Push those sets a bit harder, a little bit closer to failure, and you'll need those rests, I promise you. Now, another silly thing that I used to believe was that certain rep ranges would get a certain result. I heard somewhere that 5 reps created density and 10 reps created tone. Anything over 10 reps would build bulk. Fuck knows what happened in between 5 to 10 reps. But I believed it. Of course I did. I believed everything. Now, you might not have heard that, but you've probably heard iterations of that, such as 5 reps for strength, 8 to 12 reps for hypertrophy, 15 plus reps for endurance. It's all fucking wank, I'm afraid to tell you, because your muscles don't really know reps. They know mechanical tension, aka training close to failure, aka progressing over time. And in research, we've seen anything between 5 and 30 reps, so long as the intensity is the same, result in the same level of muscle mass. So whether you do 6 reps at a higher weight, or you do 13 reps at a lower weight, if you're training both of those close to failure, you're gonna see the same results. So the moral of the story of that is give less fucks about how many reps you're doing, just continue to give more fucks about the form and the execution of those reps so that they're getting close to failure towards the end of the set. Comparison is the thief of joy. Kinda, I think so. I think there is some form of comparison that can be inspiring if you're in a good headspace, but yeah, if you find comparing yourself to someone else completely demotivates the shit out of you, probs don't want to be doing it too much. And definitely young, insecure Rachel at 20 years old, getting into the gym all fresh, doughy-eyed, seeing the hench frickin' women be able to lift stuff that she could never dream of doing, I thought, oh my god, I'm weak, I'm useless, I don't belong here. But if I had my more mature brain and could implant it into her, I may be looking at that and going, oh shit, these people are 10 years older than me. If I could stick at this for 10 years, that might be achievable for me, or at least somewhere close. And even with that, recognizing as well that everyone has different genetics, different lives, different values, different things they enjoy, which all mold and shape the results they get at the end of it. So when it comes to comparison, just remind yourself that you're comparing your story to someone else's story, which is a completely different chapter of a completely different fucking book, probably in a different language as well. You might be able to get a few nuggets from it, but don't let it ruin your own story. You deserve more than that. Shame is a funny little devil. It's often something we feel we need in order to feel motivated, when in reality it can quite often shaft our motivation. When I first got into the gym and I was, quite aggressive with it, training shortcut to shred, eating completely clean, you know, my old roommate came up to me and was like, Rachel, you're disciplined. You know what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I did. I want you to write me a training program, get me to the gym, and make sure I don't eat any shit food. Sold, sorted. Took her to the gym, took her through some squats, loaded it up as heavy as she could possibly go. She couldn't walk for 3 weeks. With nutrition, chicken, broccoli, rice. Diet of kings. She would sneak out in the middle of the night and eat McDonald's. She became scared of me. Funny that. I'm blessed that she's forgiven and she's still my best friend, and I blame her for putting her trust in such a wanker that I was when I was younger. But this is one of the first lessons of shaming someone into change, or shaming yourself into change, probably isn't the best way to go about it. And if your new lifestyle is making you fucking miserable, there's probably something wrong there. And the way that we get our clients to change successfully time and time and time again is recognizing, okay, the things that you're struggling with, why is that? What is the first thing that makes it simple for you to start? And where can we find joy in that to motivate us to do more? And then continue and celebrate the things that you've done well, whilst taking on board things that we need to do better and improve on. It's okay, we're human, we can keep on moving forwards. With the dimmer switch instead of the light switch, that's actually got people far better results and far more enjoyment. So, stop shaming, start showing up. When I figured out that calories really was the secret sauce to fat loss, well, I took it too far. Obviously. And I got pretty freaking lean. I could see visible abs, a nice little vein. I had my Tupperware at the pizza parties, and as I said, I stayed there for a hot second. But not only did that take that mental toll, it took a physical toll as well. I was fortunate enough not to lose my period or anything as severe as that, but I certainly found my training performance really suffered. I was struggling to sleep. I felt irritable. Mood was low. It was just minging. And this can happen when you stay perpetually in the state of wanting or needing or consistently being in a calorie deficit. But that isn't what fitness is. It's just a part of it that you use if you have a fat loss goal. But a fat loss goal isn't your whole life goal. It's maybe a little phase as part of a bigger picture. And something that's important to look at when you're thinking about your health journey, your fitness journey, your fat loss journey, whatever that might be, is that understanding that calorie maintenance, or changing a focus away from fat loss into muscle growth or performance goals, or just chilling and being a bit more relaxed around your nutrition and training whilst maintaining your results, that is such a big part that often gets overlooked. And the biggest difference between myself when I was 20 to 29 is that over those 9 years, I've spent near 90% of that time not chasing being in a deficit. I spent that time building muscle, building a better relationship with my food, better relationship with my body, and as a result, I feel more confident than I ever have. And even though I'm in the midst of a fat loss phase right now, it doesn't feel physically or mentally anywhere near as challenging as it used to. which yes, in part is experience, but it's also in part spending lots of time out of a deficit, building muscle and building a fantastic baseline to deficit from. So do not overlook maintenance as a cool place to be. It's fucking wonderful. Literally, there's no getting around being uncomfortable if you're looking to change something. I wish there was, honestly. I wish I could give you a little cotton hug and be like, oh, it's all gonna be easy from A to B. It's not. There's gonna be moments that are difficult. There's gonna be moments where you don't feel motivated to do something and you're gonna do it anyway. There's gonna be moments where you have self-doubt. There's gonna be moments where maybe you do take certain things too far, but you learn from it and come back to baseline. I genuinely wish I could tell you a different answer here because, well, I'm a people pleaser, but there's literally no way to get around the fact that there's going to be moments of discomfort as you look to change your life. If you want to build muscle, you're gonna have moments where you train pretty hard. If you're looking to get fitter and healthier, there's gonna be that moment where you're gonna have to do that first icky, sticky workout where you feel really shit at it. With all those goals, there's gonna be multiple times where you're not feeling motivated or you're filled with self-doubt and you don't really want to do it. But this is literally just your cute little brain keeping you safe. The path of least resistance is always the sexier path to take. It's what helps us as humans fucking survive. So you probably are gonna have to override some of your natural default thought patterns. But just because it's hard and just because it's scary does not mean it's not worth doing. And I'm gonna close this video by saying that I'm fucking grateful for the 20-year-old version of myself that continue to show up on all of the shit days, both in her training and also in her business, because I wouldn't be sitting here making this video today if it weren't for her. So as you wiggle forth into your training and your nutrition, do it when it's hard, do it when you're scared, and I promise you, it's fucking worth it.